Morning and welcome to the Senior Hour, which is sponsored by Comfort Keepers in Home Care and Advanced Audiology. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host,
Dr. Dorio,
on your hometown station, KHTS Radio. This is a show for, about, and by seniors, giving information to enhance one's quality of life. And speaking of quality of life, our studio guest this morning is Alex Urbina, who is a life coach. And good to see you again.
It's always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Welcome.
it is.
Sure.
So you're a life coach and you're also an author.
I am.
You have written a book called The Inspirational Parent, The Magical Ingredients for Effective Parenting. What spurred you on to writing this book?
You know, I've been wanting to write a book for the last 20 years. And in my coaching practice, I've also coached other people, other light workers and other healers and, experts in their own field write their own books. And I didn't want to just write any book. I wanted the book to actually write itself through me, through my own experience. So I patiently waited until the right time. And a couple years ago, my knee started shaking and I started to get that internal voice from my spirit saying, all right, it's time to write that book. And I just took all of the experiences that I've had in transformational trainings, working with teenagers all across the world, and, taking their cries and their pains and their hurts and their wants and really kind of taking all that information and putting it into a book, letting today's parent know what their kids are yearning for and what they really need from their parents to be able to create a powerful relationship with both of them, such that their family starts living extraordinary.
And Alex, this is the senior hour, and some of our listeners are saying, wait a second, we're done with parenting. But that's really not true, because a lot of the seniors who are listening right now are grandparenting. And some of the education that we have not received in the past needs to continue to be learned about the kids of the time and what they're facing. Times have changed, and our seniors need to incorporate into their lives the understanding of what their grandkids and great-grandkids are going through.
Yeah, one of the great gifts that a teenager can have is a conscious grandparent that has developed the patience that their own parents don't have yet.
Absolutely.
Because they are struggling with bills and, worrying about things that they have to worry about to take care of the family. So, as a grandparent, you're a great gift and an asset to raising your grandkids, if you decide that you want to be that. Because some grandparents don't. They've reserved the right to say, "Hey, I've raised my kids, I've done my job, and now I don't really, want to be a part of."
Not too many of those.
Well,
there are some.
I've seen
but
some
the
out
majority, just like the parents, stay in the kids' lives. At least here in Santa Clarita.
Yeah, I've seen a good handful of the grandparents that just have decided, I'm going, and then you have the grandparents that say, "I'm going to spoil them."
Yeah, the opposite.
Yeah, I'm going to spoil them because that's what I get to do. I've earned that right, and you got to figure out how to.
I'm going to spoil them, and then you take them home.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly.
Well, that's sometimes the way grandparents feel.
Yeah.
Really feel that way.
Yeah.
Good. I can have fun with them and do this and do that and the other, and then they're taken away from me. So I've fulfilled my need.
Right.
And
exactly.
That's the way it goes.
Exactly.
And you can't blame us for being grandparents like that. And
I don't blame you. I just want to open up a possibility that if your kids have decided, or if your own young adult kids as parents have decided to raise their kids mindfully and purposefully with a certain intention, then maybe you as a grandparent want to get on the same page as your parent and say, "Hey, son, hey, daughter, I'm in alignment with you. Let me know what you need from me," so that when they come to when they're at your house, there are certain rules and a certain stand you take, and then when they come to my house, I can stand that same line and hold them accountable for the things that you're teaching them, with a few moments where I get to really kind of celebrate them and give them a few things that I want to give within reason. So it's about creating balance.
It is.
When you say spoiled, though, aren't spoiled has different connotations. And
Absolutely.
one is that it's like a negative thing. But,
Absolutely.
You know, we can do things that, you know, spoil them in a good way.
Absolutely.
So maybe we should try to go over those, and those, especially those grandparents who are listening right now, they, you know, want to know. I think the connection that you just made between the parents and the grandparents is so important, that communication line should be open. But there are things that our grandparents, our seniors can offer those grandkids that are just, you know, beyond what one could ever believe is out there. So why don't we go over some of the things that, you know, we call spoiled? You know, are there things that are specifically things to do and things not to do with your grandkids?
Well, I think spoiled, like you said, has a kind of a negative connotation to it, but it doesn't have to be. There can actually be a healthy spoiling. But you have to define what healthy spoiling looks like. Mm-hmm. You have to do it like within reason. You got to do it with a certain intention. As long as you don't go above and beyond where it now becomes either abusive or it becomes a way to contradict what their parents, the kind of message that their parents are trying to teach the kid. So you still want to be in alignment with what their parents are teaching them. Mm-hmm. And as a grandparent, your job is to try to figure out what that is, whether you're directly asking your own kids or you're asking your grandkids when they come over. Hey, what does your mom think about that? Mm-hmm. Hey, what's your dad's take on that? What are they teaching you in the home? And you'll get your grandson or daughter to start opening up once you start asking them those questions, mm-hmm. because they want to tell on their mom. Mm-hmm. They want to tell on their dad. They want to go, man, my mom, she's so mean. She's, you know, then they'll start mm-hmm. telling you exactly what kind of rules.
Some of it true and some of it not true. Well, some of it from their personal experience.
Well, it's perspective.
Right.
The kid sees it from a certain perspective, where the parents come from is, hey, I'm just learning. I'm just teaching you and holding certain guidelines for you to learn how to be a responsible citizen in the world.
Yeah, how do you get yourself down to that level? How do you want to be the adult, but then again, you want to be down at their level and empathize with their problems. But, you know, you want to also make sure that, you know, you're not just, you know, spoiling them and allowing them to do things that are, you know, inappropriate. But how do you get down at the level and talk eye to eye, but yet not lose that parenting level in their eyes?
I think that in my book, I have this tool that I teach you, and it's called Feel, Felt, Found. Mm-hmm. And when your son or daughter comes to you and is sharing their frustration with you, you want to implement this tool. So what it implies is, I know how you feel. I too have felt like that when I was your age. And what I found out was, when I was feeling like that, if I trusted my feelings, and then now you can give the advice. So yeah. Feel, felt, found. By letting them know how they feel, mm-hmm. and that you also felt like that, now automatically their guard comes down and their ears open up. But if you don't do feel, felt, found, and you jump right into this is what I found, it mm-hmm. sounds like unsolicited advice that you're giving them mm-hmm. that they didn't ask you for. Mm-hmm. So the feel, felt, found helps you put them at ease, so that their walls come down and they start listening to you as an advocate or an advisor or as this great gift that you're giving them. And so, you know, when you say, how do we meet them at their level? It's to kind of let them know that you understand what they're going through. That's step number one. If you can land on their end that you understand what they're going through, like have that sympathy, mm-hmm. all of a sudden their ears are open and they're ready to listen to any kind of wisdom or advice that you have to offer. If you don't establish that in the beginning and just start right off the bat after their last word, you just start coming down with advice, they're tuning you out. All they're hearing is wah 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 wah. Yeah, because you're right. Yeah. They because you're not letting them know that you understand what they're feeling and that you sympathize with them. That's step number one to get them to stay open and listening to you.
Isn't that one of the hardest things to do, and one of the biggest mistakes that takes place as we approach our kids and grandkids?
Is not letting them be heard with mm-hmm. what they're saying, and at least validate that what they're saying and what they're feeling is important. That's step number one. And a lot of times as parents, we kind of unconsciously move right past that phase because of our own fear, and we want to fix the problem right away. We want to give that advice. We want to course correct it. We want to let them know right off the bat that what they're doing is not working, or we want to tell them right away out of fear that, hey, what you're doing is you're going to hurt yourself, as though we're the experts, and we're not the experts. We got to, as parents, realize I'm not the expert. I have to learn how to be more of an advocate. I got to walk alongside you and mentor you, but not from the arrogant place of I'm the expert, you're the learner, so sit down and listen to me. Because that's how we were raised, right? Didn't our parents raise us like that? We were told like, hey, do X. And then if you said why, you dare not to say why, right? Because we knew the answer. Because I said so. Like we weren't allowed to question our parents when we were growing up. A lot of times it was just we were told what to do, how to do it.
That's right. Yeah. And when you say why, my father used to say, "What does that word mean?" I don't know what that word means. You sit down and do as you say. Do as I say, not as I do.
That's right.
And it's interesting because my granddaughter, one of my granddaughters, now has a almost 3-year-old little boy who is off the wall, constant energy. And I've talked with her prior to her having children. I had a son like that who was literally bouncing off the walls. And of course, at that time, we didn't know anything about nutrition. All we were told is, well, he needs Ritalin. Put him on that, which is what we did. And it made all the difference in the world. Until finally, as he got older, he began to realize what the situation was, what he was doing, and why he was doing it. And so we finally took him off that. And it's very interesting because my granddaughter never met him, her uncle. He passed away 3 or 4 years before she was born. And but she knows a lot about him because I've spoken about him, and so has my daughter. And Ryder is an image of Chuck. And he's almost 3 years old. And I mean, he doesn't walk, he runs. Close to flying,
Right.
And I've had to stop him several times when he has been not misbehaving, but just being out of control. And it's fine with his mother.
Well, how do you stop him, Barb? What do you do? What do you say to him, a 3-year-old? Do you just take him and shake him?
No,
do you slap him around?
No.
Do you throw him on the floor and spank him? Or do you? What is your approach?
Well, when he's doing that, and I'll say, Ryder, come here, I need to talk to you. And he'll immediately stop, which sometimes he almost falls over. He stops so fast because he loves to run around and around and around. And I've told him, I said, Ryder, we don't run in the house. I said, what happens if you bump into that table over there? I said, you would hurt yourself. You'd hurt your head. And kind of look at me strange, that head that goes from side to side. Because part of him understands what I'm saying, but part of him, wait a minute, I'm a little boy. I can do what I want. Even though he's 3 years old. But kids will be kids. And I've spoken with my granddaughter, and she has changed his nutrition table. They don't give him sweets. If it is anything with sugar, it's usually fruit. But he doesn't get candy. He doesn't get cookies, except on limited occasions. He doesn't drink Pepsis or anything like that. So it's helping her after having known the experience that I had with Chuck when he was growing up. Only we didn't know about nutrition then. Nobody did. but we had him on medication. And she does not believe in medication. She
How about you,
believes
Alex?
in the
Do
she
you-
believes in the method of doing things naturally and controlling him, helping him understand that he has to control himself. And I didn't realize that when Chuck was growing up, you know.
So Alex, what is your philosophy about the common use today of medications? Because medications, as you know, we're talking about the best way, and the first thing you do is you listen. But if you have a kid on medication, you know, sometimes their brain is already scrambled because of the medication. Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe as a last resort, but, you know, I think that for myself, I was like her great-grandson, you know, uncontrolled. But my parents found ways for me to let that energy out. And we weren't allowed sugar. Not because we just didn't have money for sugar. We didn't have desserts, sodas, or anything like that, and that was just the way it was. But it was just a personality thing. But I look at kids sometimes these days, Alex, and I go, are we over-medicating them?
I think we are. I'm the firm believer that when your kids are little, there's a natural way for them to grow up and develop, and it's my job as the father to figure out who I need to be and how to continue to develop myself in different areas. So, for example, one area would be in patience. If I really learn how to develop myself at a higher level of patience, then I'll be able to deal and walk the journey along with my son or daughter that might have this ADD or ADHD, whatever it is. And I can learn how to create this safe space and this environment that I can walk this journey alongside my son or daughter as they go through this natural process of trying to figure out how to still thrive with whatever it is they have, whether it's a chemical imbalance in their brain, whatever it is. But I'm the first believer that we should be doing stuff naturally first. Like you said, unless it's an extreme case that
they might be in danger of themselves.
Yeah. But let me first try all the alternatives first. Before I start putting anything into my kid's system that I don't know what's in there. I mean, there could be chemicals in there that can be causing more damage. How do I try to figure out how to do it in a natural state? And what does my son really need from me within my own interpersonal tools that I might still have to develop? Because I've seen a lot of parents through the years, in the last 20 years of coaching them, where when they finally got honest, the one day that they finally got honest, they broke down in tears. And the one thing that most of them acknowledged was that they gave their kids the medication because it was easier.
Yeah.
They gave their kids medication because it was easier. It was easier for them to do that so that they can have enough time to figure out what they can do in their day or whatever it was. It was almost like the medication was their babysitter. Rather than, and this is just I'm just sharing the insight from the parents from 20 plus years that finally got honest. And what a lot of them said was it was easier for me to give them the medication rather than figure out how to develop the interpersonal tools that I needed to do within myself so that I could have walked along that journey with them and helped them along that process.
Well, one of the things that we used to do with Chuck after we realized that, the medication is not good for him, we got him involved in bicycle racing.
Perfect.
I used to race with them.
That's right.
At Indian Dunes.
That's right.
And they'd ride by me and I'd be on the ground. Come on, Mom, get up, let's go. And then we put Chuck into racing motorcycles. And he was the first American to race that 8,700-mile race from the Eiffel Tower down through Africa.
And that's what inspirational parents do. That's what proactive parents do. That's what conscious parenting is about is, all right, rather than giving them medication, how can I reinvent myself as a parent and come up with other healthy solutions to get my son or daughter to create all these outlets so that they can flush out all of this anxiety and stress and whatever it is that they got going on
they
naturally.
don't know what they have.
That's right.
You see,
right.
And I'll say, right, come on, let's go out and play ball. Let's throw the ball.
Yeah.
Or see how many times you can walk on here, and this kind of thing. So it's a matter of keeping them involved. And we realized that with Chuck, and we got him involved. And motorcycles was his life. And I mean, girls would call me and say, "Will you please tell Chuck that I love him and I want to be with him?" And they would say, "He's too involved. He loves his motorcycles instead of his girls."
And before we take our break, I just want to, Alex is the author of The Inspirational Parent, and I just want to read this quick passage. When our children were born, they were born purely magnificent, fully aware, awakened, living in the present moment, curiously observing and learning. It is through the processes of the relationship they have with their families as well as their upbringing that they begin to create their own self-limiting beliefs, doubts, fears, anxieties, and all the other dysfunctions that intervene with who they really are. It is our responsibility as parents to realize the somewhat unintentional damage that we may have caused our children. That is profound.
And it's a very hard pill to swallow as a parent, is to know that maybe some of my shortcomings has produced my kids to be in a certain way that they doubt and fear, and they got their own insecurities.
Wow.
That's very true. And when you lose a child, all of this guilt comes flying down on you. What did I do? Why didn't I do this right? Or why didn't I change this? And that's a natural thing to occur when a parent loses a child. It's very, very natural. But on that note, let's take a break, shall we? I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, KHTS Radio.
Come join me, Arif Halby, for Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour. Every Tuesday at noon, we uncover ways to help you manage your money, get out of debt, and prepare for your retirement. That's every Tuesday at noon on Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour. Are you not sure if you can retire yet? Listen to us and learn about tips for savings, retirement strategies, and so much more. That's every Tuesday at noon on Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour on your hometown station, KHTS.
Want to go back in time to the days when a restaurant meant a place where families gather and friends meet? Try Telly's, now serving comfort food that will warm your heart and soothe your soul. From mouth-watering old-fashioned breakfasts and dinner specials that will make you feel like you're at home. The original Telly's Char Burgers up bouquet just past Haskell. Try Telly's, now serving comfort food that will warm your heart and soothe your soul. Food, family, friends. What better way to share a meal?
If you're in danger of losing your home to foreclosure, you need an expert. Hi, I'm Rich Sherman with Alta Realty. I've helped hundreds of Santa Clarita residents save their homes completely for free. I've got just over 20 years experience and a loan modification success rate of over 80%. I can negotiate better terms with your bank and I can save your home from foreclosure. And again, we do this completely for free. So if you're in any danger, please call me today at 661-714-1400. That number again is 661-714-1400. I'm Rich Sherman with Alta Realty. I'll be happy to help you save your home for free.
There's only one Santa Clarita plastic surgeon who is Yale trained and board certified, Dr. Justin Heller.
To be a board certified plastic surgeon like myself, what that truly entails is about 5 to 7 years of honed surgical training in reconstructive, all areas, as well as aesthetics, which means your facelifts, your breast augmentations, your body contouring, true training, and board certification. In fact, that's the only board certified area that can be achieved in this realm.
Dr. Justin Heller, warm, understanding, always available for guidance because he's local. HellerPlasticSurgery.com.
At Advanced Audiology, we know how important hearing is to you, your loved ones, your work success, your safety, and your ability to stay in the game. Most people won't admit hearing loss to themselves or others. We make it easy for you. Today's digital hearing aids come in a variety of styles, including invisible. All feature-rich, providing unparalleled hearing quality, wearing comfort, and automation that simplifies your life. Don't be fooled by our imitators. There's only one Advanced Audiology with the purple sign next to AAA on Valencia Boulevard.
Your hometown station, KHTS. Still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64?
Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Dr. Jean Dorio with my host, Barbara Cochran, on your hometown station, KHTS. We're talking with Alex Urbina about his book, The Inspirational Parent. And it's really, we're talking about the inspirational grandparent and how important it is for us to realize the basic part of life is listening to our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren. And to try to handle all of their problems is pretty much impossible. But it's, as the problems arise, Alex, then you got to figure out, what direction are you going to go? So what would you say in terms of grandparenting for our seniors, what would you say is one of the biggest problems they face? Is it their children being wild? Their children being depressed, their children being suicidal, their children using drugs? What do you think, what are some of the things that our senior grandparents will be facing in terms of dealing with their grandkids?
I think as a grandparent, I think your biggest frustration is going to be that you can't make the kind of difference that you want to make with the kids because you have some tools, some parenting tools that you carried from your days of being a parent into a grandparent, and the kids have changed. These aren't the same kids anymore. The world evolves and the kids evolve with the times. So now technology has advanced. Well, guess what? The teenager has advanced as well. And they grew up using these iPhones, and they're so stimulated that they don't know how to really be present and connected as much as we were when we didn't have these kinds of things. So as a grandparent that likes to sit down and have deep, meaningful conversations with the kids, you might struggle with realizing that they don't know how to do that because they haven't learned and practiced how to just sit there and
how do you
be
teach
connected.
them that, though?
That's a great question. The way that you do that is by being interested in what they're up to. Mm-hmm. So here's an example. I'm, grandfather, and my 9-year-old grandson comes over for, spend a couple hours for me to watch over them so that my kid can go shopping or go do what they got to do. What I'm going to do for the next 45 minutes to a couple hours is just be interested in him. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to be very inquisitive and asking him a lot of questions. And I'm going to be very creative with my questions such that those questions are getting him to be excited to want to share with me. Inside of those questions, as I'm asking, I'm also planting these little seeds of affirmations. Mm-hmm. So an example would be, hey, so what are you up to this weekend? Oh, I got this baseball game. Oh, my God, I'd love to come to watch your game. Your mom tells me that you're a great hitter. You must take after your grandfather. And then he's going to chuckle and he's going to laugh and he's going to, so you have to learn how to be creative and playful. And you got to, practice learning a little bit about their world so that you can appear to be the cool grandpa that they're willing to sit down and have these deep, meaningful conversations. Now, if I do this repetitively, every time he comes over, I'm interested in him. I'm interested in him. I'm asking what he's doing, what he's up to, and I'm all about his world.
He's going to look forward to coming to see you.
Absolutely. And then what's going to happen at a certain point, he's going to go, hey, Grandpa, what was it like when you were working back in the days at, General Motors? And then he's going to be interested in you.
That's
and
right.
What's going to happen is through that kind of inquisitive, patient, being interested in each other is going to create a very powerful dynamic and a beautiful relationship that will blossom into you being able to plant these seeds inside of his head, and you can build him up. You can empower him. You can acknowledge him. You can, every time he leaves your house, he's leaving with you filling his head up with reminding him what an amazing kid he is. Mm-hmm. So you're doing that work, being that inspirational grandparent or empowering your grandkids. So it's like, it would be awesome to have the kids come back to their mom and dad and go, I love going to Grandpa's house. And they go, you do? Why? And I go, I feel renewed. Oh, wow. I feel like I went to a therapy session. It's like I came back. I'm ready. I'm ready to take you guys on, Mom, Dad. I feel. Yikes. Yeah, I feel like I can. I have a voice. I feel empowered What would it be like if you can empower your grandkids to really remind them every time they're there and they're with you what extraordinary human being they are? And your job as a parent or a grandparent is to keep reminding your kids how amazing they are. That's your only job. Not to fix them, not to control them, not to tell them what they need to do or how to do it. It's just to remind them how extraordinary they are and that they have a purpose and that they're capable. It's to be the greatest advocate. That's your job.
Yeah. So, when I was like 6 years old, that I can remember, my dad and I used to take the bus to downtown Los Angeles and go to get cheese and Italian type food.
You're making me hungry now.
I know. And the memories that I have, and the reason why I look forward to it, was because he also took me to downtown and he showed me, he was a union leader at that time and had been in New York, and he showed me the sweatshops. And he didn't say, here's a problem here, da-da-da-da, but he took me into them, and I looked, and at that time they weren't Hispanic. They were all different from different backgrounds, but I learned, he brought me into his world, what he saw. And then when I was a little older, probably 5 years later, he would go to Camarillo State Hospital and Metropolitan State Hospital, and he would bring me along there too. And I look forward to going, and I'd sit at some of their meetings and just sit with the clients. And it was like, cuckoo's nest, but the people were so normal to me, and, I had great discussions and going there. I look forward, but that was his world that he introduced me to allow me to understand the world around me. And we have the world around us here at the homeless shelter and the senior center. We have places where, the world is there that needs to be introduced to our children to know that, simply living in Santa Clarita truly is a privilege for all the kids who are here, but they don't understand that. But by seeing the other part of the world like I saw, it introduced me to how other people do live. And I think that was an asset for me, then ending up going into medicine, then trying to take care of patients, but not only the regular patients, but senior patients, older patients that, have problems. And now I see what they have to deal with in terms of grandparenting, and it's, it's a whole different life now that, I get to see and I get to learn and try to understand how not only the kids, they're different, but how, it's a different world for us to be able to take care of them, Alec.
Absolutely.
So, but your book, I will tell you, I've been reading through this, and I'm a pretty fast reader, and it's just outstanding.
Thank you so much.
And, people really, it's called the inspirational parent, but it really applies. It could be the inspirational grandparent. And people really should consider,
an idea for you.
Consider the...
Well, the book is actually multifaceted. It's actually a personal development book. It's all about personal growth, but it's really wrapped up and geared towards marketing it to the parent. But you can literally put the inspirational anything in there. It's about developing the ability to be inspirational to yourself and to others. It's about developing certain interpersonal skills to help you become more conscious, more aware, and getting yourself to higher levels of enlightenment. So
and skills. I mean, that we always like to think that we have everything. After a while, we call it experience, but to be honest with you, experience becomes skills. And I think it's important that people realize that skills are continually learned. They're not just thrown in your lap and you learn it in the 6th grade and that's all you're going to learn.
Well, I think experience with the permission to practice what you learned from the experience turns into skills. But I know a lot of people that have they have a lot of insight and wisdom that they don't share or practice. It just becomes just a thought and a memory that they store somewhere. And that's why I'm an advocate for, elderly people to decide that they have something important to share with the world, because there's an incredible library of insight within each and every one of you that people are dying to find out if you were willing to share some of that. Why would you go to your deathbed holding any of that wisdom one more second from sharing it with other people, especially younger people? Knowing that my grandparents might have passed away going to their grave, having some little golden nuggets of wisdom that I didn't get to, that thought kills me. And when I was younger, as a teenager, I would spend hours talking to my grandma, hours. And I think she taught me how to really have deep, meaningful conversations. It wasn't with my parents. It was my grandmother sitting right there in her kitchen table eating Fig Newtons and tea, hot tea. It was just me and her, and being inquisitive and asking her all these questions, and her willingness to share and be so vulnerable and intimate with her life that I just walked away feeling so empowered and feeling so worldly, because she was willing to share some of that with me. But that was back then. Today's kids, they don't seem to be as interested because they're so stimulated with technology.
Yeah.
So we have to figure out, as grandparents, how to hook their heart, bring them in, to have them realize what kind of a gift you can give them. And as parents, you could remind your kids to go spend time with your grandparents by planting these little seeds and inviting them to go hang out with them a little bit more.
It's interesting. I didn't have a good relationship with my grandparents because it was during the war years, Second World War years. And the only thing that really stands out in my mind is my mother's parents. My mother's grandmother, her name was Minnie, and my grandfather's name was Charles. And when my dad would come into port, he was in the Royal Navy. When his ship came into dock, my mother would drop us off at my grandparents' house, and she'd go spend time with him. And one particular afternoon, my grandfather had this walking cane, and I heard him say, my brother and I both heard him say, "Minnie, get me some tea, please." No, he didn't say please. "Minnie, get me some tea." And obviously my grandmother didn't hear him. And then he again said it, and he picked up his cane and whacked it on the table he was sitting beside. "Minnie, bring me my tea now." My brother and I literally ran into the hallway and hid behind the big grandfather's clock. I used to call him Mini Hitler. I really did.
Yeah,
that's pretty
I used
scary.
to call him Mini Hitler.
Yeah,
but that
I
was
used to hate it.
Wasn't that what happened then, and maybe even still happens now in some places?
That's probably very true.
Yeah, there were. I think a lot. I think it's fair to say that back then there was a lot of men and women that were really suppressed with their emotions.
Absolutely.
And they were frustrated with the way that the world was, and they just, for whatever reason, didn't have a healthy outlet, and they didn't really continue to work on themselves interpersonally. Yeah. Now, if your grandfather would have been introduced to personal growth and enlightenment and spirituality and really practice some of these amazing tools that we have for us, he might have been that, loving, compassionate, vulnerable hero that you guys wish he would have been. But for whatever the case is, we all have to decide to embark on a journey like that. If not, we become smart, arrogant know-it-alls that really don't know how to be in relationships with people to hold on to those beautiful relationships.
And times have changed. Thank goodness they have changed. As far as my grandparents are concerned, my mother was always very subdued, didn't speak up much, didn't let herself be known. My father was the opposite because his dad was never around. So he and his brothers had to be the men of the house. They took care of things. And that's what was handed down to me as a daughter. And it's interesting because I became quite the opposite of my mother. I let myself be heard, And I can remember my mother telling me, "Babs, don't talk like that." And I can remember saying to her, "But Mom, that's what I'm talking about. That's the way I feel," just like you were saying, feeling, felt, and found. And my father was the opposite, constantly talking, you know. But that was such a different experience that I am able to now give my grandchildren and great-grandchildren, because I learned a great deal. And I was always taught, you always say please and thank you. And that's something that kids aren't taught anymore.
Yeah, I think it's the American dream as a parent is to give your kids a better life than you got, a better raising. If you can just change the course in the direction of interpersonal growth and well-being in your generation, you know, you can die in your deathbed knowing that you made a difference. If you could, you know, maybe you didn't get the I love yous from your parents, or maybe you didn't get the hugs or affection from your parents, but if you can figure out how to develop it within yourself and teach those little things to your kids and create new traditions for the future generations of your family line, then you've made a difference, right?
You absolutely have. And back then in England, the scene was so different. The whole world was different. But I'm so glad that I had some of those experiences when I think back on them now. And I'm in the process of writing my autobiography. I've gotten up to 10 and a half years old so far.
Awesome.
So, and there's still a lot in there that I haven't put in, because I keep reading it. Oh, that triggered something else. So I have to go back to my computer now and put this piece in there and try to figure out where it's going.
You might have to do a series, like book 1 is just up to 10.
That's right. Yeah. But it's in thinking about all of the things that happened to me as a little girl, it's quite different from what happens to little girls now. Mm-hmm. Very, very different. Yeah. But I'm glad I had that experience, because it taught me so much. And I've been able to, through my own therapy that I've been through on various occasions, that's helped me understand who I am, why I am the way I am. And it's helped me with my children, my grandchildren, and my great-grandchildren.
And that's how you change the world, is by taking your experience being raised by your parents and then deciding that you're going to improve that teaching to your kids, and then make that course correction and that adjustment. So you're passing it on to your little hidden gems and little tools. That's you're right. Being a little bit more effective in your parenting with your kids.
So when we come back, why don't we talk, Alex, though, about what our the grandparents out there face in terms of the technology that our grandkids have, and how we can learn to interact and intervene sometimes because of that technology. We're talking with Alex Urbina. He's the author of The Inspirational Grandparent on your hometown station, KHTS.
Did you know that SCVI has the only international baccalaureate program in our community? That means that students at Santa Clarita Valley International Public Charter School can participate in very rigorous classes run by highly trained and skilled international teachers. They work with kids to become active, compassionate, and lifelong learners. Students with IB diplomas at select colleges can graduate with a full year credit at their university. Schedule a tour today online at scvi-k12.org or by calling 705-4820.
Choosing the right coffee service was a top priority for John Hayes, owner of Hayes Plumbing in Santa Clarita. John's glad he called Sean Milligan at Professional Coffee Service.
Well, once we found Sean at Professional Coffee Service, we've been very, very happy. We started using him right after our factory warranty had expired on the current copier that we had purchased, and Sean and his guys have been far and above better than the factory warranty service.
Professional Coffee Service, 299-5756. 299-5756. The only authorized Canon dealer for sales and service in Santa Clarita for Santa Clarita Professional Coffee Service.
We try to keep everything we can in this valley. We shop local ourselves, and we try to use any local merchant as possibly can.
Call Sean Milligan at Professional Coffee Service, 299-5756.
Call Professional Coffee Service immediately. They'll save you a lot of time and get your office staff back up to full production.
Professional Coffee Service, Santa Clarita's only authorized Canon office equipment dealership. Ask about our free on-site demos.
Do you like to rock across Africa?
Then the wait is over.
Africa Rocks! Africa's Greatest Hits is now available at the San Diego Zoo! And who could forget 99 red baboons?
Or the African-crested porcupine smash hit, I Got Quills to Pay the Bills! Hey, don't get too close!
And the hits keep on coming!
Africa Rocks has all your favorites from 6 different African habitats.
Hungry like a leopard!
Ibex is back!
Harder, better, Fossa stronger!
And a new track from Kendrick Lamar!
Now, Larry.
Yes, Chuck?
A collection of this magnitude, I'd fly to Africa!
Well, don't pack your bags, friend. Africa Rocks is only available right here at the San Diego Zoo.
Wow, that really does rock.
No, it Africa Rocks.
Welcome to Africa Rocks. Experience 6 different African habitats, including our first ever aquatic enclosure with African penguins. Only at the San Diego Zoo.
At Advanced Audiology, we know how important hearing is to you, your loved ones, your work success, your safety, and your ability to stay in the game. Most people won't admit hearing loss to themselves or others. We make it easy for you. Today's digital hearing aids come in a variety of styles, including invisible. All feature-rich, providing unparalleled hearing quality, wearing comfort, and automation that simplifies your life. Don't be fooled by our imitators. There's only one Advanced Audiology with the purple sign, next to AAA on Valencia Boulevard.
KHTS. Still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64?
Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, KHTS. And we're speaking with Alex Urbina, who is a life coach. And boy, have we been talking about life today.
Yes, we have.
We have covered from 3 years old up to 85 and beyond.
So what's the takeaway in everything we've discussed, Alex? But, relative to your book and our seniors who are listening, I think that, they're seeing one thing and they're hearing something today. And I think some of it is accepted, but some of it is like making them fearful that how are they going to be challenged as grandparents taking care of their grandkids?
I think for me, I think the takeaway is different for everybody. Everyone hears their own takeaway or golden nugget or whatever it is. For me, the takeaway is that I get to keep learning, growing, and developing interpersonally till I take my last breath. This is why. I have my mother-in-law living with us, and she's at a certain age now where she's slowing down. She's not able to take care of herself very well. And just like I used to have those deep, meaningful conversations with my grandmother as a teenager, I occasionally like to sit down on some of the time that I can open up and sit down with my grandmother and just be a committed listener to her and give her that outlet so that she can hear herself share and reminisce. Because if not, she just sits there in the room and just stares at the wall all day, which is heartbreaking for me. So I purposely take time out of my days when I can to sit down and just ask. And I might ask her the same questions I asked her last week and the week before. But to see her face light up and just come alive when I'm asking her those questions is pure joy to me. But the takeaway that I'm realizing is she's very frustrated because she doesn't have a very high level of education. And she stopped growing interpersonally. And the most heartbreaking thing for me is a human being that thinks that they know all of it, and they stop growing interpersonally and evolving since the age they were 16. I know 80-year-olds that are stuck in a 16 or 17-year-old mentality. And that's heartbreaking to me because the world's going to outgrow you. It's going to keep advancing, and it's going to keep getting more advanced, and it's going to move past you, and you're going to feel lost, confused, and left behind. Yes, and she says to me sometimes, Alex, she goes, I admire you a lot of times because she goes, some of the words that she calls me very smart, and I said, I'm not a smart man. I don't have a great education, but what I did was I decided I was going to be a lifelong learner of myself and humanistics and life. And so I'm evolving more in a conscious level, not in an intelligent level. But for her, she feels left behind because some of the words that we use, even when my family are sitting around the table and we're talking and laughing, she gets lost. She can't keep up. and I feel bad. So for me, the takeaway is I have to constantly keep learning, growing, and discovering interpersonally so that I'm not that old guy at my daughter's dinner table where the kids are talking really fast and I don't understand what they're saying. I want to be plugged in like if I'm right there in it with them as a family member.
And that's the difference between today and long ago.
That's right.
Because that never happened. But it happens now, much more than we think.
Yeah, so you got to decide that you're going to keep learning and growing so that the world doesn't outgrow you. Because the worst, I think, experience is to be there with your family and they're all laughing and talking about stuff that you get lost and you don't know what they're saying, and then you just sitting there depressed because you feel like you're just not part of the conversation anymore.
And I think I learned from my parents that, you know, how I watched them, how they kept growing, but it was really, Alex, more of an attitude, because my parents always told us when we were challenged with something that we weren't sure about, but we had to move forward, that it was an adventure. That's how both my parents put it. It's an adventure, so let's see what that challenge is and move forward. So that attitude has been instilled in me. Everything as I move forward in life is an adventure for me.
That's why when you got that flat tire with your mom, she looked at you and she goes, "Let's do it."
Let's do it. It's an adventure.
It's an adventure.
Move forward and move ahead. And that, I think, attitude is just the biggest and most important part of life.
Absolutely.
It is.
Absolutely.
And
positive attitude.
That's right.
And being inspired like your book. And, you know, Alex, I think I've read about a third of your book while we were on the air, and it is definitely inspirational. And, you know, Alex Urbina, you know, you've been a part of this radio station, but a part of this community. And I will tell you, adding your book to the health and welfare of especially seniors is going to move people forward in their adventure. So thank you so much, Alex. We appreciate
Absolutely.
that.
It's an honor. And I just want to quickly say that I have my first workshop for the book called the Inspirational Parent Workshop this weekend. For anyone interested, you can go to my website at alexurbina.com and jump in for just under $200. It's a 2-day, very powerful, intense transformational training for parents.
And grandparents.
And grandparents,
Very
actually.
good.
Absolutely.
Great, Alex. Thanks for being on the show. We are sponsored by Advanced Audiology and Comfort Keepers in-Home Care. Listen to us next week on the Senior Hour. Now go and enhance your quality of life.